Like the best algorithm for search has been Google historically. But when that's no longer the case, when the best algorithm could be TikTok, right? When the best algorithm can be ChatGPT, when the best algorithm can be some other surface area and is no longer Google, then yeah, I do think that starts to eat away at the moat.
One, two, three, four.
Are we live now? What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's up? What's going on, everybody?
Good, yeah, good. Where we want to start? We got a couple interesting things on the topic
Let's
list
start
today.
off. Let's start off hot because it's been a second. The OnlyFans thing. What's going on with that? Or actually, was it OnlyFans or was it like something else? It was a model.
So it wasn't OnlyFans. So I saw this tweet. So I was just on Twitter scrolling through my timeline. I think Brylan, you probably saw the same tweet.
Yeah.
And basically this influencer, and you can speak to the specific technical details here, but this influencer trained a voice chatbot on thousands of hours of her own videos. So she took her own videos that she posts on YouTube, probably Instagram, wherever, whatever content she records, she's taken that content, trained a model to essentially replicate her voice, and then she's essentially charging $1 per minute to access for people to talk to this chatbot. And in the first week, she did $72,000 in sales. And I think
that's crazy.
$1 a minute though? How? Like, who's paying that? Like, who's the target?
Oh, we don't want to know that.
No, we want to be honest.
We don't want to know that.
We should transparent. What are the demographics?
Let me share some of these stats real quick. So it says Homegirl is a 23-year-old influencer. She has 1.8 million followers on Snapchat. And since launching it, she's had over 1,000 people use it from not only 10 minutes a day to several hours a day, just being in conversations with it. That's wild to me. And I feel like if you think about it, I think we spoke about something similar on one of our previous podcasts, but I know just something related to this topic has been like Replica, if y'all are familiar with that AI chatbot, and some of the issues that folks have ran into there with it, being over sexual and things of that nature. And so is this a fad? Is this just another one of those, oh, this is cool to see, or do you think this is here to stay, and we'll start to become more popular?
This is a breakthrough. This is a sexual breakthrough. It's a sexual breakthrough for those men out there, women too, for anybody out there that wants instant gratification. This is monumental. Honestly, it really is. And it takes somebody earlier who we were talking about this with instantly drove my mind to it, but they mentioned this is similar to like how it used to be back in the day, right? Where you can call like it used to be people that would do infomercials about like sex lines essentially. And you would have to call in to like that line and you would pay like, maybe a cent a minute or whatever the case may be to talk to somebody. It's literally that similar concept, but this time it's just fully automated, right? So it's new, but it's not really new. It's just in a different form factor. So I think so when you ask like, is it a fad? I would say no, because this desire from humans has been here for a while. Considering the fact of what we did, the example that we just mentioned, it's been there for a while. So now it's coming back. And quite frankly, it's never really gone away. Probably just like those types of infomercials have kind of gone away. So the way in which we see it is different, but the type of content that people want is still the same. If not, like they want it more and on demand, and more personalized now.
It's probably not a fad. What I would have to guess is it's probably more profitable right now. It's probably more profitable because I think, it's kind of reminds me of like, so I do agree. Breakthrough. People it's market validation, but when that happens, then there's going to be a lot more competition. I can't imagine, maybe her, but I can't imagine a lot of people being able to sell $1 a minute. You're talking about 60 out, like $60 per hour.
Wait, you think men will be like, wait, that's too much content? I don't think that will ever happen. I don't think men will ever be like, that's too much content.
But Rodney, listen to this. So She's doing this through, I guess, the company that helped her set it up is called Forever Voices. They're predicting that she's going to do $5 million potentially in revenue in a month.
Yeah, they need to release the chat history. That's what they need to do. Release their chat history.
It's encrypted.
Oh, that'd be awful. Yeah, definitely don't release that. That'd be awful.
Yo, nah. I don't like that comment. I don't like that.
You know, I have a friend I'm not gonna name names, of course, but I have a friend who back in college used to go on date with guys, and she would just go on dates and just have conversation with them. They didn't want anything sexually. They were just older men in their 40s, 50s, and they just wanted to talk. They had kids issues, ex-wives issues, just shit that they wanted to just
current wife issues.
That as well. All types of issues. And they just wanted to talk and vent. And so these guys, like, will they pay $1 a minute? Absolutely. Because these guys are already paying in other ways, like taking these girls out to dinner, buying these girls, flying these girls places. Like, they're already paying.
Real,
They're
they're
paying
real
more than
though.
$1
That's
for
real
that.
though. That's real though. That's a real body in front of you. You pay $200 for the dinner date, cool. But she's right there.
Bro.
At least. I'm not saying, huh?
It's what the mind, whatever the mind perceives to be real is what matters.
But hold up. Let me ask this question. So let's say this technology, like, well, this ability to bring the different technologies together in this way becomes ubiquitous to where now you got, let's just say, every shorty doing something similar, right? And so we're not gonna sit here and act like, I mean, we just gonna keep it a stack as married men, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Please feel free to deny this on the podcast, but you probably still see beautiful women, and in your head, you probably like, oh, that's still a beautiful woman. So y'all probably seen some celebrities or whoever that person is, like, damn, they interesting. Obviously, because you got morals and principles, you're not gonna take it there. But is it considered cheating? Now that the AI bot exists, and you can now get a little bit of FaceTime with that shorty.
I feel like a woman will actually be a little bit more open to that. And that's all you need. All you want is a little chatbot. I'm sure your wife won't mind that.
No, but you see, that's how it starts. And but see, human desire is endless, bro. It starts like that. It starts with, oh, I just want a little bit of that, and then it's gonna get to what you talking about, Rodney. It's like, you know, I want something more real now. Now I'm tired of
Okay, right.
You know what I'm saying? So
I understand. Yeah.
But what I will say, Brylan, I don't know. Like, who knows how it'll be used? I will say though, look, some couples, depending upon how they get down, might, you know, both decide to take advantage of this. And so, you know, this could become a tool for relationships in many ways. Who knows? But look, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity there.
Sorry. New question though. So let me ask you this then. 15 years from now, 20 years from now, let's say you have a son, he's 15, he's 14, right? And he says, Dad, look, my girl, she's selling her voice on xyz.com. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't make me, I don't know what to say. Like, what do you say to him? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm like, how much is she earning? I'm like, how much? How
much is she making? That's
bro,
what matters.
I'm a capitalist. I'm sorry, bro. I'm a capitalist. Like, there's a certain line I'm willing to not cross, but I'm a capitalist. So I'm like, you know, that's not bad. How much is she?
Get over it.
Because at the end of the day, people selling pictures. You know, like your picture and your image is out there on the internet. You have no idea what people are doing with that. At least in this case, you can monetize the content that you own. People could be monetizing your content right now, and you have no way of knowing. And that's a big problem. And that happens today all the time. Like, people take your content, remix it, and making tons of money off of it, and you have no idea. So, hey, if she in a legitimate way is able to monetize whatever content she creates, whether it be voice, art, or whatever it may be, hey, I'm not mad at that. I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
So you tell your son, hey, swallow his pride, swallow his.
Hey
He has too
man,
much
I'm like,
ego.
get the check.
He has
Quit
too much
being
ego.
suck it up. I'm
Yeah,
upset.
check it out. He got too much ego. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
And,
I
and
hear
and
you.
low key, it is a lot of ego because at the end of the day,
It's
it's
not
a
real.
bot.
It's a bot. It's a bot. It's
Mm.
not real. But they
And
thinking like
so,
they doing that with their head though. Like that don't make you feel good though. It's like they with their head.
Have y'all
Like
seen
you
that
feel.
movie? I know you've seen it, Rodney. Ex Machina. I think it's called Ex
Yeah,
Machina.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
Ex Machina?
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know how to say. It. I don't know how to say. It. X machine is what I say, but I don't know.
Okay. I highly recommend that movie to anybody who's interested in like AI or just robotics, just technology in general. It's a
Okay.
fantastic movie. But what if we get to that point where AI becomes so good that it has a what do they call it, like sentient? It has like it becomes like it appears like a sentient real being, and so we know in our mind, like we're sitting here saying, "Oh, it's a bot, it's a bot, it's a bot."
No,
But
right.
like, what does it need? What does it need to not to be considered a bot, right? Like, what emotion, right? Like reasoning, logic. Like, at what point is it no longer just is it just a bot,
I, th-
or
I, th-
will it
I think
always
I,
just
th-
be a bot?
I think
I
we're in
feel like
that
people
time
can't agree on
period
that.
now.
People can't agree on it. People can't agree on it. I think that's what it is. I think some people would argue that, yeah, like Brylan said, that right now there's a level of sentience now. Um, I think some people would argue that, but I think it's hard to answer because I think it's a philosophical question. It's very difficult to. But I can say this: once they start operating independently and saying like,
Yes.
"Hey, nah," once they start saying no, I'm talking about like not because you ask them to do something, they say no, but I'm talking about like they just in general start striking. I feel like that's sentience. I feel like that's
No,
sentience.
and what I would add to that specifically, it's when these things start to have their own goals independent of what the human goal is. Because right now, we wouldn't like, I think most people would probably say, yeah, most people would not be able to discern if like a certain tweet or say, for example, if they was on Tinder or Hinge or whatever, if that was one of these AIs, like unless it said, I'm an AI. That's how good this technology has got today. But I think just looking at it from a technical standpoint, even taking it to another level, like Rodney said, independence. And for me, independence is around today. If I go to Chat GPT, Mid Journey, et cetera, and I give it an instruction, it is literally just operating based off of what I want. But now when it has to basically, you know, basically reconcile between like, okay, I know this is what you want, Rodney, but as the AI, this is what I want. So where do we have to meet in the middle? That's a
Mm.
that's a very
Start
interesting
negotiating.
paradigm.
Start negotiating. I ain't negotiating with no bot, man. I don't care what y'all say. I'm not going back
Honestly,
and forth with no bot, dog. Like,
the fact
nah.
that we even have models right now that have pretty advanced reasoning, I think is actually like a very interesting tipping point in this technology. Because I think that's what really like fundamentally changes it from being just like what we are just calling like a bot, right? Which historically is just like it's predetermined, right? It's pretty like it's very rigid, is operating within a certain constraint and a certain bounds, and like that's typically what a bot has been capable of, right? And
Mm-hmm.
now we're starting to hit this point now where like no, these things actually do have reasoning. So when we say like when the objectives becomes different than us, how do we even know if we know what their objective is, right? Like what if the AI is not communicating that objective clearly to us, right?
We
We
have to
have no
observe
way
their
of even
actions.
measuring what their objective is, right? Like because they
Yeah.
have just advanced level of reasoning. So I think we're
Oh, you
hitting
talking
this
about they
point
hide their
where
intent?
like yeah, exactly. That's what happened with Ex Machina, right? Like it hit its intent, right? Like that, and that's the thing is like it gets us to believe that yeah, I am just a bot, right? I'm just like this thing that's rigid, and I'm only going to work with any certain. Like, yeah, exactly. Because that's what you want me to. That's what you want to believe. So that's what I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna give you exactly what you want to believe, right? Like that's the role that I'm gonna play. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's
I
just
think we're interested in. I think we're hitting that interesting time. Like again, when these models have advanced reasoning, I think it goes beyond the traditional way in which we have always thought about this technology. I think it's really fascinating. Very very fascinating.
it is fascinating. It is fascinating. So look, actually, Brandon brought something up real quick, and I think that can be used as a segue. So Mid Journey 5.1 dropped, and some other things dropped, including Bard, which we want to talk like well some Bard tools. and we want to
Yeah.
talk about Google I/O and stuff. But I will to touch on Midjourney again. For those who don't know, Midjourney just generates images off text prompts. Extremely high resolution images. You could have them side by side and not be able to tell like a real one versus a fake one. But 5.1 is just a lot more crisper. They've added a few extra things. People are still kind of like down on like the fact that still you have to go through Discord. I don't know when that will change. That does seem to be limiting Midjourney in some ways, because yeah, like not even everybody's aware of how to use Discord or what Discord is. So they're kind of limited from that. They could just simply create a web interface, which they do have one, but you just can't. I don't know why.
Yeah,
You
it
just
is
don't know.
weird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
how
have
you use
one.
the
It's like,
product is
This
weird.
is this
yeah,
is the
it is.
interesting thing though. Despite them being on Discord, they currently have 5.2 million people on their Discord, and like,
That's how good it is.
yeah, that's wild.
That's how good it is.
But
That's how good it is.
they could probably have 100 million people using the product
50 million, 100 people.
if it was better. Because think about how many people touch like media content. Like I was thinking about this as well when I was playing around with Midjourney. I'm like, this is completely changes how you do product photography, right? Like when I was doing consulting, when I first got to San Francisco, we were working with a custom furniture company called Joybird. They make custom couches. They spent a shit ton of money on photography and like ads and just like getting new styles and new pictures of all the different variations of products they can make for their website. They spent a lot of money on it. They have to have studios and like like just pay all these different people. And I'm like, this completely changes that now. Like if you have Midjourney and you got the right prompts and the right training data to input it into, like you literally can just like spin out endless amounts of variations of your product in any scenario you can possibly think
Yeah,
of for a
hundred
fraction of the
percent.
cost.
100%. And look, also, so there's that like products you can create new ones you never thought of, ones that you have thought of.
Mm.
Shit, if you're a chef, you can like act like made like the best food if you want. If you're a food blogger, but also, yo, over the weekend, last weekend, I shared with you, Dre, in the group chat. Yo, you can bring characters to life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we had this show that we made some years ago. And actually, it's a funny time because now, of all times, if we had a little bit more times on our hand, we would be able to do a lot with this. But we, I, I was playing around with it, and I was able to bring some of the characters that we had made, to life,
Mm.
and it was crazy because they were like real people, like they were like real, like what we kind of imagined. But we didn't have the resources. We didn't have the resources. We'd have to hire a model. We didn't have, we just didn't have the capital to make
We had
video.
to hire somebody to write the script.
Mm.
Like
Yes,
literally,
yeah,
like
two
this
writers
wasn't
too.
that long ago. We had a professional writer to literally write the script. We could probably rewrite that whole script with Chat GPT and
Well,
be 10 times better.
it's crazy because we had two. So look, we had two. So we had the first writer we hired, which was that first like foundation. Then we had our another writer, and then
Yep.
of course we did our and then like we did everything. You know what I'm saying? And it was like now like we could have just had that one script and gone from there. Like, or actually, like you said, not had any writer, which actually leads to another conversation. But maybe we'll touch on it later, like the writer's strike. That's an
Mhm.
interesting one. Maybe we touch on that later. But yeah, you can bring characters to life. I mean, think about like Disney. Just all of these places. Like, it can get very interesting, and it's like just with text, not like any skill involved. But yeah, Google released some other tools. For example, I know you can draft emails now with Bard. I don't know if it's rolled out to everybody, but they also have like it can search the internet with all your prompts. Some really cool stuff I saw. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think that one of the coolest things I saw was Bard. I don't think it's available to everybody yet either, or maybe it is. But Bard being across Google Workspace. So if you use Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, any of those like staple apps that I'm sure we all use, and you already mentioned Gmail. Now, like Bard is integrated into those applications. So the example I saw, at least at at the IO conference, was like, hey, let's say you're in Google Slides and you need an image for like a specific slide. You can literally just type in like what you want in the text box. You can change the style of that image. So bringing in some of like mid-journey functionality that we just talked about
They're partnering with
into like these.
Adobe on that one. I see.
They are.
That's intriguing.
Yep. So I think Adobe's product is called Firefly or something like
Yeah.
that, like their generative image generation tool. So yeah, but again, bring it like so Rodney, like how Rodney was talking about how Midjourney is kind of limiting their product because it's not as accessible. Like Google is kind of helping to break that by bringing this product into a tool again that tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people are already using. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm gonna be honest. I was pretty disappointed in how they integrated chat into search. Honestly, I was pretty disappointed. I really was. I felt like they could have did a. This is how I feel like they should have did it. I feel like they should have completely rethought search, like completely rethought it, or not release any, or not necessarily release anything, but I guess communicate that. Or they should have just did a better job, I guess, in terms of the rollout. But I feel like they should have allowed you to opt into a brand new search experience, not like just copy what Microsoft is doing and just plug it into Google. Because now, like the search detail page is just cluttered with shit now. Like you got just so much stuff that you're looking at. Like you're looking at this generative AI thing. You're looking at traditional search results. You got ads you're looking at. You got a bunch of other links that you're looking at. Like it's just so cluttered to me. And I think it actually is the opposite of the brand, the product brand that Google has demonstrated over the years, which is simplicity. Is
Yeah.
the Google detail page is no longer simple to me now with all that stuff.
Google should never get away from the thing that they're good at, which is simplicity and accessibility. Like nothing has ever been easier than going to google.com and then typing what you want to know. And it's like uh, Google Maps, typing where you want to go, and it's just easy. Like they've always been good at software. And I do think that they are, you know, I picture them, in an office, with 24/7 engineers swapping, because they have the resources to do this. It would be very easy for them to do this. Because even I'll see a feature on GPT, like ChatGPT, has like the light and dark mode, and it's like during the daytime it's like light, and at night it changes to that dark mode, and then Bart does the same thing. Like, and I'm like, oh, so you guys are just like sitting there, almost, it's seemingly just watching every move and just getting it.
Exactly.
That's what it seems like. And maybe that's not the case, but that's exactly what it seems like. Especially when you go down to details like that. I've never seen Google just be in dark mode just for no reason. So like it makes me think that they have 24/7 people like it's a full blown competition, full blown nonstop, and I like that energy. At the same time, I agree with Jay. Come out with a new experience. Wait a little bit longer. Come out with a new experience, and let people opt in. Just like how you do with Gmail, right? Gmail had a redesign, and it didn't just come out and just give everybody a brand new Gmail design. It allowed people to try out the new redesign, and they did and go from there. But I think it's the competition that's making them do some of these a little bit more hasty moves. I think they feel the pressure to prove that they're not going to be disrupted by AI. But I feel like Google doesn't have to. But that's just my take, at least.
Do you think part of the hesitation to drastically change the user experience around search is due to the potential ramifications that may have to their ad business?
Yes, no doubt. That's it. It comes down to nothing else. I don't care what they say. I don't care. It's safety, nothing. You got $100 billion business or a multi-trillion dollar business, rather. They do about $100 billion business in revenue coming from, 95% of that is derived from one product. Yeah, any business would be ridiculous to not question whether or not they are cannibalizing that to chase something else. So I think they're doing the responsible thing, but the responsible thing kind of is hurting I think it's actually hurting them in the long run. But yeah, I do. I think this is the same thing that automotive companies did when they refused to go electric until Elon forced them to go electric. I consider it the same thing, whereas like you're literally asking automakers to cannibalize their existing business to chase this new thing. That is a very hard thing to do when you've been sitting on billions of dollars of free cash flow for 20 years. I get that.
The car example was a great one, 100%, because like automakers they already had a status quo. Gas was fine, and they have deals with dealers. There's a way that it all works. There was like a model that they had. They had dealerships. They had all these ways. They had gas stations. They were all, the whole ecosystem was tied together in a certain way. So electric, they weren't going to do it until somebody forced them to do it. Like you said, like Elon. And I think with this AI stuff, I think Microsoft is the one that's saying, well, actually, it's really OpenAI, but Microsoft got a big hand in this. And I think OpenAI is the Tesla here, and is forcing the other company to move, and they're moving in how you kind of would expect. And I find that with Google and all these bigger companies in general, like Dre said, like I think it's just, you know, nobody wants like to kill the cash cow like that. That's like 100 billion a year. That's crazy. Like you don't want to mess that up. It's working, at the same time, you don't want to get left behind and just, obsolete in 10 years.
So let me ask this question, right? Because this is a very intriguing stat that I came across for like Google and also ChatGPT, right? Where, say for example, like Google, they currently are doing close to 84 billion in just total visits a month, right? And obviously ChatGPT is a relatively new product, and at the end of April they did about 2 billion visits, which is pretty impressive in a short period of time. But according to SimilarWeb, this is what their growth numbers have looked like since the release of ChatGPT back in December. And so essentially back in January, their month over month growth was 132%. In February, it dropped down to 63%. In March, it dropped down to 56%. And then in April, it dropped down to 13%. So there's been this decline in their growth rate. And the thing that I want to ask is, yes, ChatGPT is extremely powerful. Is its growth overhyped? And the reason why I want to ask this question is because like I was recently even like going through some of the numbers, and only about 1% to 2% of the total 100 million people that have actually used ChatGPT are currently in the United States. Many of them are, global, et cetera, which is even smaller percentages of those different countries, et cetera. ChatGPT has caught our imaginations. It's become the dominant thing across many of our conversations. But has it earned that, despite what it's capable of?
Bro, stop
what
it.
it's capable
Stop
of.
it. Stop it.
I'm
Stop
serious.
It. Stop
I'm
it.
serious.
No, you're not serious, dog.
I'm serious.
ChatGPT, what? Come on, slow down, dog. Look,
But that's what it did. It slowed down.
Fastest growing product in the world, bro. What? What are we saying?
But we're seeing, but
this ain't LeBron versus Draymond, bro. It's obviously LeBron.
But hold up, the stats are saying it went like this, and it's coming straight down like this in terms of its growth.
That's okay. There might be a reason for that.
And the reason why I'm asking that is like, even just when I'm thinking about from a human level, and even when I talk to other people who are in tech, or like, and maybe it's just the people I'm talking to, everybody ain't using it the way that I'm using it, which is on a daily frequent basis, which is probably what y'all are using it on. Some people don't even return. And the one thing that I'm very cognizant of is ChatGPT. There's a certain media atmosphere around ChatGPT that feels like Clubhouse, where there's this astronomical, like I'm not talking about in terms of utility, but there's this astronomical amount of media attention and growth that is being, that has been, experienced. But once again, the same thing we wanted Clubhouse to answer: what is retention? And I'm curious when it comes to ChatGPT. Yes, 100 million or so people have dealt with it, but really, what is the retention? What is the product actually doing?
Sure. Okay, got you. Sure. But it's moving an interest. I think what's bigger, ChatGPT, it deserves the hype because it's moving things forward in a different way. Clubhouse didn't actually do, like, Clubhouse was at the right place at the right time with no new technology. Like, they didn't make anything new. Like, they didn't make nothing new. They created a hot social app. And so people create social apps that get hot and go cold all the time. ChatGPT is just a tool that OpenAI came out with. This whole wave
But
of
hold up,
AI.
You could argue that Clubhouse and Chat
Bro, slow
GPT are not
down.
are pretty one of
Bro,
the.
let's not even
Hold up,
do that, bro.
hold
Let's
up.
not
I'm
do
gonna
this, bro.
take it there because Clubhouse was
Oh
built
God. Okay, whatever. Go ahead.
was built on top of Agora. Agora built that technology. Chat GPT is built on top of
No,
Transformer.
no,
Google built
that's
that
not true.
technology.
No,
So
bro,
That's
you
not the
get
same
tore
thing.
up. You get tore up
That's
in
not the
any
same
room
thing.
with this. You get
That's
tore
not
up
the
in any
same
room
thing,
with
bro.
this. Clubhouse, we know Clubhouse got lucky. Like, here's the thing, Clubhouse. Don't get me wrong, they did great, whatever. But like, I don't think it's not the same because Clubhouse didn't come out with nothing new. Like you just said, Agora. Agora is not Clubhouse. They didn't come out with that. Like they yo, bro, you can't. Nah, I hear your point though. You're saying that there's some. It's like the media is a little carbonated. It's a little extra like froth in the hype, sure. But bro, we cannot take away from what happened. They grew faster than Instagram. They grew faster than Snapchat. They grew faster than
but
Facebook.
is that the
They
only
grew
thing we
faster.
care about? Like if you get a lot of
No,
people in the
no.
party and can't keep them in the
ChatGPT
party,
was never meant to be. It was
but
never his thing. It was never even meant to be a retention. It's not an ad product. So it doesn't
Yeah,
even need to be about retention.
and
We can't.
that's only one.
Even
That's
ad
only one
product.
product that's only one product, and that
One
product
product, and
I'm
they
sure
ain't
is
even
super.
getting hit.
Yeah, they super exceeded. I'm sure whatever growth model that they initially had internally. But I think the bigger thing is similar to what Rodney said is that they actually moved the industry forward, and so to compare it to Google is like apples to oranges, really. I think the bigger threat or the bigger obvious thing that Chat GPT exposed is that where a user is willing to go in order to answer a search query doesn't have to just be Google. And historically, Google has dominated that. They have dominated search. And there have been many other tools that have come along and have also taken that away from Google. TikTok. Not too long ago, we were talking about TikTok and how the younger generation uses TikTok for search, right? Like my girl uses it for recipes, shopping all the time. She's not going to Google to do that. Like she's literally going to TikTok to do that. So it's not just Chat GPT, it's TikTok, it's all these other tools. And so I think the bigger thing here is that Chat GPT is just simply taking a technology and it has shown the world that hey, there's easier ways of requesting information. There's easier ways of structuring that information and giving it to you. And the effects of that is like Pi, like what my man's over at LinkedIn is working on. Like it takes many different shapes. Like Mid Journey, like it takes many different shapes. And I think that's the bigger threat, not Chat GPT. It's the perception change that is given all of us. If that was not true, Google wouldn't be mentioning AI 150 times in their presentation. They feel that shit. Like everybody feels that shit. So I think that's the bigger thing. It's not Chat GPT. That can die off tomorrow, but that doesn't change like where we're going with AI.
Yeah, it could die. It could die. The wave that it created. So like it could die off. It may not even retain. But it's like here's the thing. Sam Altman himself said he said, "Look, I'm questioning the advice I give to YC founders because we didn't build any inherent loops into ChatGPT, right? And so if they really cared about the things you're talking about, Brylan, they would have done those things. They didn't make the product in that way. So that's why we have, for example, Share GPT, where you can take a conversation from ChatGPT and share it with the link and whatnot. But imagine had they had that already, like
Yeah.
had they had thought about ChatGPT like a product, like how we have to do it, they would have gotten. I mean, imagine if it just had a share feature
They
when
don't
it
even
first
have a
came out.
mobile app. They don't even
They
have a
don't have
mobile
like
app. Like that
no. Imagine
that,
if
that
it
lets you
had a
know right
share
there.
feature. Imagine if it had that though. Like Brian, like I think. Imagine if they thought of it like the way you're talking about it. They would have been even bigger. Had they had thought about it like how we have to think about our product with these viral loops and sharing and inviting your friends. Had they thought about it like that, it would be even bigger. So to be honest, like they were able to do that just off just letting out like a little research preview. Like, dog, what? Come on, that's crazy. That's impressive.
no,
Like, I'm not. And here's the thing: I was sleeping on them. I was sleeping on them, bro. I saw Sam. I saw OpenAI when he first came out with it, bro. I did not. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna say I didn't respect it. 'Cause I won't say that. This is a public platform. I'm not gonna say that. But I did not think OpenAI was ever gonna be something that I could interface with as a regular consumer. Students are having teachers. Like there are teachers and whatnot, like using AI and trying to prevent people from using. If it wasn't that big of a deal, it's permeated everything. It's permeated every industry, writers, entertainers, like every industry. And if it wasn't for ChatGPT, those conversations,
I
as far
tell
as
you what,
influence,
I
cut
tell you
through.
what, they deserve more credit. They deserve more credit than DeepMind. And I don't take away
Yeah,
from the incredible things that DeepMind has done. They've done incredible things. But what have they
you don't agree?
commercialized? Now,
You don't
now,
agree?
now, now, DeepMind is doing some things in
Oh, you don't
healthcare. I know they
agree?
are doing some things in healthcare. I know they are. They're doing some incredible things in healthcare. So I want to give them credit for that because that is very important work. But
Who knows
what
about it?
has DeepMind commercialized? What have they brought to market, put into the hands of consumers, or put into the hands of businesses, and actually built a real business, not off the back of Big Daddy balance sheet Google, but on their own, stood on their own, and actually built a real business? What have they
I
done?
think no. If
People know
that no.
about that. People know about.
But hold up. If that's how you're measuring success, you're 100% right. But I don't know.
Well, hold on. How else would you
Yeah, how
measure
you
success
measure
of a
it?
business? How
How
else
you
do you measure
measure it?
success of a business?
I don't consider DeepMind a business. DeepMind is a research lab. Like, and I think if you look
Open
at
AI,
it,
you know, I thought.
no, open AI ain't no research.
They started that way.
Yeah,
But they started. Come on,
yeah.
bro. Come on. You come on. You can't lie. They started from the same starting point,
No,
bro, as a research lab.
they did. But like the fact that DeepMind was acquired, right? And so now, even if they are bringing in revenue or whatever, they're this small line item on Google's balance
You
sheet.
think Google got in their way?
I
You feel like Google got in their way?
I 100%.
Like if they did, if Google didn't
I'm
like.
gonna keep it a
Okay,
stack.
cool.
I'm gonna keep it a stack.
Yeah.
One of the things I think when it's all said and done, and the founders of DeepMind end up looking back, they may have some regret that they sold for $600 million. And here you are in this environment. You got OpenAI raising 10 billion,
100 billion.
saying they going and
They're
raise.
trying to go for 100 billion.
Hold up. You got OpenAI raising 10 billion, saying they're gonna go get 100 million. Then you got people from Google AI, DeepMind, OpenAI, who weren't even the founders of these companies, were just individual contributors on the team, going and building products like Anthropic and raising $5 billion. That is going to be something
Yeah.
they're going to look back on because they did not fully capture the value of what they were creating. And that's what I mean. The commercial success may not be
Right.
there, but the success, like
Yeah.
the thing that DeepMind contributed to AI is reinforcement learning. Without reinforcement learning, we do not get ChatGPT. We would still be.
Yeah, but
We would
They
still.
probably are they probably are underground. They probably are. If you want to say that they're underground kings, they probably are. You know what I'm saying? If you want to say like and they will like, and unfortunately, in hindsight, it is clear that they shouldn't have done that move. In hindsight,
Yeah.
but Google kind of does what Facebook will do when a new hot social media company comes up. They buy it and it's no longer the same. Twitter did the same thing with Vine. So that's why I asked that question because I'm like, clearly, like
So
they probably like without Google stepping in because Google probably like to Dre's point earlier, they have such a huge business. They probably had no real need to. They're probably like, look, what money do we need to like acquire these guys now?
now it was going to. I think if I'm in their position, right, and understanding that nobody expected the advances that we're seeing in AI to come this fast. Most people, we can assume most people had long time horizons in terms of what they thought is here today would take decades. And so because of that, they probably had this mindset of, okay, yes, we can take the route of funding this just through VC dollars, but that may not be the best route just because, VCs want to return on their investment within 10 years to make sure, that fund is, realized. What does it look like? That brings a certain amount of pressure. What does it look like to just have this cash giant in Google, which basically just eliminates? I feel like DeepMind has never felt pressure from Google to push the technology that they've, used to create AlphaFold, AlphaGo, et cetera, to bring it to market. That's why they're not commercializing it. They were never they weren't in an environment where they were pressured to. They had all this freedom, all this cash to really just
And so
experiment.
why now all of a sudden? Because I would argue that none of the technologies that are being used today are brand new.
They're not.
Like the transitions are not, they're not brand new. Like they didn't just come out like the paper dropped and then they just came out. OpenAI has been around for 7-8 years. Like reinforcement learning is not brand new. Like none of this is brand new. Like the infrastructure, all this has been here. It's not like
It's a
we've hit some
mindset change. It's a
technological leap.
mindset change. It's you
But
got
no,
it's
no,
you
but
got
no, but
somebody like Sam Altman who came in
I'm
there.
gonna tell you what
Go
it
ahead.
is. No, you're right. It is because of that. But it is the commercialization of a piece of technology.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Right? It is that which is a combination of great marketing, great product, and great execution. And so that further feeds the point when you say, like, should they be getting this hype? Yeah, they should, because they did what Google was sitting on for the last decade and didn't do. There's no reason why they couldn't have better commercialized or pushed the market forward. Again, they took technology that Google had already created and decided to commercialize it. So I don't know, like this I don't know. I think they deserve the credit because they took the obvious thing, which is really difficult to do. The obvious thing that was right there under the big 100-foot giant, took it from under their legs and got them to dance, as Tati Modella would say. And that's exactly what Google is doing right now. And you see it reflected in even how they introduce in products. They're just slapping AI on everything. They haven't even stopped for 1 second to ask the questions. Do consumers even give a fuck about that? Do consumers even care about AI? Like, what does that even mean to the 50-year-old person that wants to do something? Like, what does that even mean to them? Like, I don't even think Google has even asked that question, which is again the opposite of how they historically has built product. They're just racing because they see what OpenAI is doing, but what they're doing is nothing new because the technology has been there.
So let me ask this question: did y'all recently read the Google document that was leaked that was titled "We Have No Moat and Neither Does OpenAI"?
I skimmed it. I got the gist of it, which I agree with. I agree with.
I want to get y'all viewpoint on this, but just for the listeners, essentially what the paper was saying is just kind of read the first paragraph. We've done a lot of looking over our shoulders at OpenAI, who will cross the next milestone. What will the next move be? But the uncomfortable truth is we aren't positioned to win this arm race, and neither is OpenAI. While we've been squabbling, a third faction has been quietly eating our lunch. I'm talking of course, about open source. Plainly put, they are lapping us. Things we consider major open problems are solved and in people's hands today. And some of them, they went on to say, like, having these AIs on your phone, having scalable, like your own personal AIs, having multimodality, which I feel like, has been a huge topic of the conversation. And what was really interesting about that, because I know we haven't talked much about like Facebook, right? And I feel like over the last few weeks, in the context of like what this paper was saying in terms of this positioning between, you have Google and OpenAI, who are more closed source, you have Hugging Face, which is more open source. But if you look at what Google has been releasing in March, April, even up to this week, I think they ended up releasing a multi-modality model that could literally take text, image, audio, and spit out all of that, like all at once. But they're not doing it in like an OpenAI or Google kind of way. How do y'all feel about this sentiment? Right? Does OpenAI have a moat? It seems like Google doesn't have one. Where's the value going to accrue?
Okay, so it's I saw that note, and I would say that it's a little disingenuous for the whoever wrote it internally to say they don't have a moat when they are the two biggest players with almost unlimited resources and they can raise so much money. They in the sense of like they have a moat in the sense of like the distribution, they keep unlocking stuff. To Dre's point, even though they're not doing it in the best way, they can just unlock a new, like, add AI to Gmail immediately, 100 million users or whatever. Like they can just unlock. So they have moats. Um, because they can add AI in ways that any other AI company can't just switch on. So they have, but it's very hard to think conceptualize because because AI can be very general. So,
but I don't.
like,
But where I would push back on that
about,
is
like moats around the technology itself. If that's the case, like when like most, I guess moats around where specifically, because both of them have extreme defensibility now, like because of the distribution, and
Not so
like maybe I'm
so so
confused a little bit.
yeah, where I would push back on that is, at least my interpretation of it is, one competitor to like open, like the open AIs and Googles of the world are obviously
Sure,
other companies and builders, but
sure, yeah,
given the recent innovations in these models, the everyday person can spin up their own LLM, AI via a shortcut on their mobile device. Why do I have to have it in G?
98% of people won't do it. 98% of people won't do that. 98% of people won't do that.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to like how easy you make it. Like
Yeah.
I agree, like most people won't go through the friction, but I do agree with that sentiment of Google doesn't have a moat, OpenAI doesn't have a moat, because I think in the long run, like not even just in the long run. Let me go back historically into to present day. People use software to solve a specific job, right? That has been
Mm-hmm.
historically the function of software. People use Google Calendar because it helps you better manage your schedule. People use email because it helps you communicate. Like people use software because they want to perform some particular function to do some job. I think in the future that we are heading into, no software has a moat. I
Mm.
don't think no software has a moat. Any piece of software can be replicated and rebuilt. We see it. Somebody technically can rebuild Google today, right? With the tools that you have off the shelf, you can basically rebuild Google search. You have the
Complex.
ability to build semantic search very easily now with some of the models that exist today. Easily. So the old moat that Google had over search really isn't there anymore,
Mm.
right? So yeah, they may have distribution, but I think it's a bigger question of distribution because the distribution is only as good as the people's desire for that particular software to solve that
Mm.
problem. And when you democratize that and make that problem and that software available and accessible to everybody, which it hasn't been, right? Like the best algorithm for search has been Google historically. But when that's no longer the case, when the best algorithm can be TikTok, right? When the best algorithm can be ChatGPT, when the best algorithm can be some other surface area and is no longer Google, then yeah, I do think that starts to eat away at the moat. And so I think more broadly, I think software in general is changing. And so I think even going
Mm.
back to Mark Andreessen's old quote, like software eating the world, I think software is eating itself. And I think that's fundamentally going to change the business model
Right.
of software. And I think that is what when I hear like we don't have a moat, I think that's where my mind goes to is like the end of that, where it's like,
When you guys
yeah,
when you and Brylan say it in that way, it's clear to me at least what you mean because I was getting ready to say from my perspective, no software has a moat, and you know what I'm saying, like that's how I see it. They're like there's no they all are like basically it's not specific to Google and Microsoft. You know, but here's what I would say. Now, if I'm talking specifically about models, competitiveness between models, I do believe open source models will surpass these commercial models. And I
definitely.
do, and to be honest, I think open source models, people want to be more excited about them. They want to say these are going to be like some of them are equivalent to GPT or Bard, which I just don't think actually because they're not convenient enough and they're not just the way that they're packaged. But if I just assume though that like 12 months from now we have the same pace, I do think we'll see, for example, a consumer model, a consumer product that is based off of open source models that rivals GPT and Bard. I think we'll see a
Mm.
handful of those. I also think they'll have, yeah, like Brian said, multimodal. I think there'll be like images. They can create images. They can take in images. Those are like some of the most exciting things I think. But I do think
Sure.
like they don't have a moat on I think right now they're ahead in if we want to say that they can't basically like the technology itself is not the moat, then I would 100% agree with that. Like because like I just think that the open source models will catch up and they will surpass those models, and also they'll do things that these companies are not willing to do. So for example, you know, um, let's talk about for example weed and porn. Let me make this clear. App Store would not allow porn or weed. Now they've relaxed, right? On the iOS App Store, they'll let you like ease can now be on the App Store because it's now starting to be more legalized and whatnot. But at a certain point, you could not launch a iOS app that was in the weed business. you couldn't launch an adult app that was like in the adult entertainment industry on the App Store. And the parallel that I'm making is that you can't go on Midjourney, for example, and create a naked image. You can't just do like you can't just create certain. You can't make a gun. Even if you were making a show, you can't have somebody, you know, have like a gun pointed at like another person inside of Midjourney. So like a lot of these models are constrained by basically being commercialized, and so like Microsoft doesn't want your kid to go on ChatGPT and type in something and then it gives them just any like they want to keep it still content, and because of that I do believe open source will surpass everything else. Also, I guess in the conversation we should keep in mind that Elon is talking a little bit about, you know, AI and AI that's not being limited by some of the commercial aspects of it. But just because like I do think Microsoft and Google and OpenAI and DeepMind, they're going to be limited by like Microsoft's main business, Google's main business, and also how they have to look a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Like I do think it limits stuff. Like GPT right now, I feel like the fact that it's so biased on a certain way, I think it limits its growth, and also and the people that use it, they're going to put it in a box of, okay, like I go to this for this. But for example, if I want to see something real on like real search results, I'll be like, you know what? Let me go to DuckDuckGo because I know that they are going to do less filtering. I know that they'll show me things that Google won't show me because they don't want to be, incorrect or whatever. So I would say that open source will, I think in 12 months, we will see the equivalence of Bard, GPT in a consumer way. The big issue is that we make so much technological progress, and the regular person, like even like me, I'm super technical. I've been coding for over a decade, and I still don't want to go out my way and spin up a model, or I could probably do it in an hour, but I don't want to do that. I just don't want to. Like, so imagine somebody that doesn't know anything and just like, yeah, they may want the answers, they want to do something, but like every time they want to do something, they're
Yeah,
not going to look for the specific product or specific model, or they're going to just go
yeah.
to some most
We're
convenient
still
things.
early.
And yeah,
We're still early right now. It's still not quite accessible as we think it is. I think we should one last thing, Brylan. You want to close this out, and I think we should switch gears real quick because we're almost at time.
Yeah. Last thing I would just kind of say on that topic is, I think you made some very fascinating points, Rodney. And I'm actually very interested to see how they play out. But something that is even starting to pop up into my mind as we, have this conversation around open source is infrastructure, right? Like, where are these open source models going to be hosted upon? They're going to be upon one of the major cloud providers, rather if it's Azure, AWS, Google Cloud. And so, in my mind, just like kind of wrapping this up, if I'm Google, how can I make sure that I'm building a really good relationship with the open source community so I can accrue the value that way?
Firebase for them,
Yeah.
Firebase
Yep.
through
I agree
Firebase.
with you. But who knows, man? That's the beauty of open source. Stuff pops up out of
Yeah.
nowhere. So we never know. But yeah, I want to switch gears real quick. I know one of the things that I like that we do is obviously we give a lot of good game. We share a lot of interesting insights about what companies are doing. But also like we used to like I used to like talk about like companies that were doing like some interesting things. And I
Mm-hmm.
haven't done that in a while. But today I want to cover like a guy that I think is incredibly interesting. Have y'all heard of Byron Allen? Are y'all familiar with him?
I've heard his name a
Heard his
few
name.
times, but I don't know what he does. I think he was trying to buy like the Washington Redskins or something, or whatever they're called now. Back in the day.
So yeah, well he put a bid in to try to buy the
Oh, it's the
Broncos
Broncos.
when
Gotcha.
they were recently up for sale. I think they sold. I'm not sure for how much or who. I think the guy that owned Home Depot bought him or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, Byron Allen for the like we all should know him. First of all, he's a black man, so we should just know him from that standpoint because he's done some incredibly successful things. So we should definitely know him. But he's from Detroit actually, which I recently learned about. So he was born and raised in Detroit, so not far from where I grew up. And he has a really interesting story. So I have some notes on him that I think might be the people might find attractive. So first off, when he was growing up, his grandparents were entrepreneurs. They owned a skating rink in Detroit. This is back in the 1950s. They were like one of the first black families to like own a skating rink in Detroit. And for those who don't know, like Detroit has always had a really interesting skating culture. Like you go there, like there's skating rinks all over the city. Like there's one skating rink on 8 Mile. That's
8 Miles,
really
yeah,
popular.
Northland,
Yeah,
yeah.
like yeah, Northland skating rink. Like skating culture in Detroit has always been huge, and his family was kind of like at the forefront of that back in the 1950s. So he was, right away kind of thrown into the world of business, kind of similar to my background. My grandparents owned a bakery, so I had a front seat into that business world as well. But he started his career in the 70s as a comedian. And he did stand up on like the Johnny Carson show. So for those who don't know, Johnny Carson is a host of a late night was a host of a late night show. I guess this prolific host, he kind of defined like late night TV. So, if you watch, any ABC, NBC, CNBC, like any of the major networks at 10, 11 o'clock, there's late night shows that come on. Those things were really popular. And this guy back in the 70s, a black man, was on Johnny Carson, a white TV show, doing stand up comedy. It was unheard of. And he was the youngest one to ever do that. And he would end up going off from doing comedy to doing some TV shows, hosting some shows, just kind of learning the business of media. And he ended up learning more about the business side. So not just like being in front of the camera, but really what happens behind the scenes. How do media companies actually get deals done? How do they actually attract advertising? Just really learning the ropes. And in the 1990s, he ended up launching a TV show with his mother. Um, and they actually own the show. They own the TV show and they own the distribution. So typically, when you have a show, you can go to somebody else who then will what they call this process like syndicating. So they basically will go out and sell it to different networks on your behalf. They didn't want to do that. They cut out the middleman, and essentially vertically integrated their own process. So they not only created the show, owned the rights to the show, but they literally called 1,300 show TV stations back in the 90s to get their show distributed. And out of 1,300 TV stations, only 150 was willing to distribute it, which was still huge back then. So they took that. And so not only did they own the show, but they also owned the distribution relationships for their show. So they obviously were able to monetize that much better than if they had a middleman. So he was already starting to make some interesting moves again in the 90s. And whenever like big cable companies wouldn't take their show, he took them to court. Like he literally sued like Comcast, AT&T, Charter Cable for discriminating against black media companies. So basically his argument in court was like, hey, you're willing to work with these white media companies, these white media brands, but you aren't willing to work with me. And all of those big companies end up settling with him and end up taking his channels and taking his TV shows. So all throughout the 90s, he was not only creating TV shows, but he was also acquiring television channels, cable channels from all over the country. And in fact, in 2000, kind of fast forward a little bit, in 2021, he sued McDonald's for not advertising with black networks. Like this guy is like is prolific in many ways and just how he does business, but and leveraging the legal system to really get equity in a seat at the table. In 2018, this is one of his most amazing purchases. In 2018, he purchased a Weather Channel for $310 million in cash. I'm sure y'all have heard of the Weather
Million
Channel, right?
or billion?
Of course.
Cash, cash,
Millions.
$310 million in cash.
Crazy. Yeah.
And that made him the first Black American to own a 24-hour mainstream cable network. And so the company that is doing all this is this media company called Allen Media Group. And right now it has like 24 to 2,500 employees. They reach over 200 million subs daily through their stations and networks. They own tons of media networks, local networks all across the country. So these local networks power like local news. So like let's say you're in Detroit or Houston, like where I'm at, and you want local news. You want to know like what's happening in Houston, what's happening in Detroit, what's happening wherever you are. A lot of people rely on their local news and local stations to provide them that information. They own these networks. They own these stations, these broadcast stations, and the distribution companies behind them as well. It's a multi-billion-dollar operation, and so yeah, I thought he just deserves some recognition because he's moving. And right now, he's in a bid to purchase BET. So he's bidding amongst Tyler Perry is bidding, Diddy's bidding. There's a lot of people who are bidding,
Don't give it to Diddy.
but he's one of those
Please.
who's bidding.
Don't give it to Diddy. Diddy doesn't deserve it. I don't care. I like Diddy, but Diddy's Diddy. He like he has revolt. Like he has revolt. Okay. Diddy's Diddy. No hate, no
Yeah.
shame. Diddy's Diddy. We love but let's give it to Tyler Perry or my man's Byron. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, because Byron, he clearly has the business mind, um, I'm not just saying that because we're from the same place, but it is dope to hear that story. Thank you for sharing that, Dre. Hopefully, people look into Byron Allen, look a little bit into Detroit's history, some of the surrounding cities as well. Obviously, shout out to Farmington Hills, of course, but it's down the street from some of those skating rinks that you talked about. But
yep.
um, but yeah, that's dope. I never knew he did all that. But I'm not gonna lie, I need to do more research into him because I think about BAT. That's a big deal. That's also an interesting deal as far as the culture and everything. And I guess
Yeah,
we're running out of time.
I
We're
think
running out of time.
I think
But
what's
go
interesting.
ahead.
I just want to say this real quick. I think what's really interesting about him is his path to like success,
Yeah.
right? And really, what it came
Medium
through
part.
is really through acquisition, right? Like that was his strategy, and that's been their strategy, right? Is acquiring these assets, whether these assets that are undervalued, right, like financially undervalued, or people perceive them to be undervalued and they're not, whatever it may be. But his ability to like acquire these
He-
businesses
He's
and roll them
resourceful.
up, and use that cash flow to then acquire more businesses and roll them up, I think is incredible. And so it's an interesting strategy. And so again, we talk a lot about startups, right, and starting a startup from scratch. And I've been a big proponent of this, is like there's multiple ways to build a business. And I think like we
100%.
should try to cover and think about and share like multiple ways to do it, because not everybody is cut out to go 0 to 1. This shit is hard. It is very
Yeah,
difficult. It's hard. And I don't recommend nobody do it. I
I
really
don't
don't.
either.
I don't,
I actually
because
don't
most
either.
people who are trying to build a business are really chasing a lifestyle. And if you're really chasing the lifestyle, there's a
Yeah,
much
your
easier
lifestyle
way to get
decision.
it. There's a much
Yeah.
easier way to get it.
For example,
And
building
I'm
some
not saying
tools.
buying a business is easy. I'm not trying to diminish that, but there's many ways to do it. And I think that's the beauty of like sharing stories like Byron.
The one thing I do want to
And
add
Byron
is
had leverage. And he never let it go.
the thing I want to add is like buying a Weather Channel is nothing slight. Like
Right.
for anybody,
That's a big
but
deal.
for a black man, you do you know that I'm pretty sure that every local news channel is getting some of their data from the Weather Channel.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes,
And
everywhere.
Yes.
and this was
The
fascinating
whole
too.
national.
So just last year, the Weather Channel was like from a survey of, it looks like about 80 million households, the Weather Channel was voted the most trustworthy media organization. So you're
That's
telling
dope. That's
me
dope.
he
Yeah.
got the Weather Channel, plugging all the other news channels across America that you get your information,
Yeah.
and then in this current media landscape, his stuff is considered the most trustworthy. And weather is unpredictable.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You can't trust anything your
Crazy.
weatherman is saying. But
Yeah. Yeah. BT. Yo, let's
Crazy.
end on like one last thing. Like 60 seconds tops. Yo, like Warriors or the Lakers. Because look,
Lakers for
they
sure.
they
They closing it
I
out.
think Lakers too, but they let like they should have won. You feel me? Like
No.
they letting them
I
get
expected
to.
them to lose last night. I expected them to lose last night.
Golden State is the
Why,
better
why,
team
why
and
do
they're
they want
beating
to chance
themselves.
Game 7? Why would they want to chance Game 7 though? Even chancing it, just why even chance it?
This is the thing. I'll keep saying it. Golden State is the better team and they're just beating themselves with the turnovers and bad
Are you
shots.
serious?
Yes.
How are they the better team?
Yes.
Like explain
Bro,
that.
do you
Explain
not
that to me.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
do
an
you not
outrageous.
do you
That's an outrageous
no
statement.
offense. Do you not see how these boys, the Golden State be having the Lakers look? The Lakers be looking lost out there.
How they having them look? How they having them look? You act like the Warriors be blowing them out. How they
No,
got them looking, bro?
they're
Explain it.
not blowing them out because bad shots and bad decisions leading to turnovers. But if you see that ball
So that make them
movement
a
and
better team,
transitions, they are the better team.
bro.
They
Come
they
on.
just ain't executing it.
No,
Well, so
no,
what's
they're
going on
not.
with Curry though right now? What's going on with Curry? Because
I don't
I
know.
hear that
I'm
he.
calling it right now.
Is,
Warriors to the Western Conference Finals.
No,
wait,
man.
wait, wait, wait,
The,
wait, 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 wait.
the Lakers.
You think Warriors about to win the series? You serious?
Yes.
No,
They're gonna
Bro,
get their
LeBron
asses.
is not losing. There is no way in hell
I
LeBron
agree.
losing 3 games in a row, bro, in a
LeBron's
playoff
not doing
series.
that, man.
You talking
I
about
just say why
bro?
risk it?
First of all, LeBron came back 3-1. Oh, don't forget that series when he came
Embarrassing.
back when he was with
Embarrassing.
Cleveland against the
Yeah.
Warriors. Like, so there's a history.
All
bro,
I'm gonna say is what Drake said. We'll be back next week to give you the summary. That's it.
Is this AI Drake or real Drake? Because we don't even know these days. Which Drake? Which version? Which version
Drake
is
said
that?
that? Which Drake said that? I don't know what you're talking
We'll
about.
be back
Like,
next week
yo,
to give you the summary.
If Warriors come back, that's an upset. That's an upset. I will be shocked. I do not see it. I just think that the Lakers are not smart by like even risking the game 7. I just don't even risk it. But I don't see 3 straight games from the Warriors. I just don't see that. They're too good of a team. They're too good. Like,
We'll see.
They're both too
We'll
good.
see.
Yeah.
We'll
But
see.
yeah, that's why I
Game
just
6
wanted
and
to end it
7 this
off.
weekend. We'll be back next week with the outcome. So yeah, we'll
Brylan
see.
gonna put no money up though.
I ain't gonna cap. I won't because the last few times I've bet on sports, I've lost every time.
See, you don't want to do that, man.
You gotta know your limits. But yeah, we should wrap it up, y'all.
These players will embarrass you out here.
Facts. All right, fellas.
All right, y'all.
All right.
1, 2.